Most television shows are meant to be entertaining, and entertain us they do, at least for the good ones anyway. But only a handful are able to genuinely improve our lives and make us feel good while watching them. Ted Lasso is one of those shows.
You guys see the way I see it, okay? Everybody in this building, part of the team, part of AFC Richmond. Team's got a bond, all right? I mean, heck, Higgins and I are having lunch today.
Oh, yes. We're having salads in my office.
All right, catch you later, boss. Higgins, see you at lunch, huh?
See you later.
Oh. Yes.
It is a comedy about an American coach who goes to England to become a manager of a football team, but with no experience or knowledge of the game. In the process, Ted Lasso, along with his assistant coach and good friend Coach Beard, slowly break through the various cultural barriers with not just the players of the team, but all those that are involved with the club, in a manner that is filled with sheer optimism, charismatic humor, and even incredible insight on how to be a good person.
You know what? It's not even very good. It's probably really bad. You know what? It's embarrassing even.
Sorry, Nate. I have a real tricky time hearing folks that don't believe in themselves, so I'm going to ask you real quick again. Do you think this idea will work?
Yeah, I do.
Whoa! Why are you screaming at us, Nate? We're right here!
But what exactly do I mean by this insight? How can a show like Ted Lasso actually go beyond its comedic premise to teach us some important lessons on how to be a better human being? Well, after sifting through the series again, I've compiled a list of what I believe are Ted Lasso's rules for life, using quotes and themes from the show. And for this video, I want to focus in on the first rule, which urges us to be curious and not judgmental.
I was gonna be a hoot.
In Season 1, Episode 8, we have a pivotal scene that first introduces us to this idea, and here's the setup. Rebecca, who is the owner of the Richmond Football Club where Ted coaches, invites Ted to meet a pair of the club's stakeholders at the local pub. But upon arriving, the two find out that Rebecca's ex-husband, Rupert, has now bought out those shares and has put them in the name of his freshly appointed trophy wife. This places Rebecca in a nervous disposition to Rupert, who taunts her with a reminder that he has the rights to come watch games from the owner's box, which is something he intends on doing so, only in a manner to spite her. But Ted decides to step up and do something in a way that is subtle enough to not lash out at Rupert, while also showing Rebecca that he cares for her. And this is where the rule of being curious is rearing its head. Ted notices Rupert and his wife playing darts, and instead of responding to Rupert's rude candor, he quietly shifts the conversation to a playful question about how serious the game of darts is in England. This question covertly invites Rupert into challenging Ted to a game himself, as he watches Ted casually and sloppily throw his dart on the board that lands way off target.
Hey, there it is.
Rupert asks if Ted would like to put some money on the line in the game, but Ted responds back with something different. He suggests a stake to ban Rupert from the owner's box if Ted wins, or allowing Rupert to choose the team selection for the final games of the season if Ted loses. Of course, Rupert happily accepts and gloatingly reveals a set of specialized darts that he just happened to be carrying on him. But Ted has a surprise of his own, as he too reveals that he is actually left-handed and fires off a bullseye with ease. The two go on to have a tight battle that comes down to the last hand, to which Ted needs what appears to be an absolute miracle of a round to win the match. Rupert, although having seen Ted's good game thus far, is still overly confident and sarcastically wishes him good luck in trying to hit 2 triple 20s and a bullseye. But this is where Ted teaches Rupert the importance of being curious with a short but sweet anecdote about his life, and how many people like Rupert have judged him incorrectly and have underestimated his abilities.
Because if they were curious, they would ask questions. You know? Questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Which I would have answered, yes, sir. Barbecue sauce.
As we can see, being curious and not judgmental is a powerful statement and lesson to learn. It taught Rupert how assuming to know everything about someone can turn into realizing that you really don't know everything, and that fact could cost you deeply in the end. If Rupert had just asked simple questions, he would have found out that Ted was a great darts player, and that it was unwise to challenge him in a game. In the process, we can see that it wasn't actually Ted that misled or hustled Rupert into playing, but that it was rather Rupert's lack of curiosity, arrogance, and ignorance that actually misled himself into losing. This is an interesting and important theme that is spread throughout the show and within different characters, some major and more obvious, but also with others more minor and subtle. For example, in Season 1, Episode 2, we're also introduced to the tense dynamic between Rebecca and Keeley, a supermodel who is dating one of the players.
What is it you're doing again?
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
Excellent.
Keeley tells Ted that she finds Rebecca incredibly daunting and terrifying to the point where she has always feared how intimidating Rebecca appears to her.
That Rebecca is an intimidating, very tall woman. I mean, the minute she locked eyes with me, I started sweating.
But Ted kindly reaffirms her that this isn't really the case, and that deep down, Rebecca is a nicer person than what she looks like. Soon after this, Keeley overcomes her fears to tell Rebecca that she's decided not to be scared of her anymore, and in turn begins to ask questions about Rebecca's life and how she is handling her divorce from Rupert.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it make you really mad that they went after you and not Rupert? Because he was the one that cheated, and he came across like Prince Charming. It really pissed me off.
As the series progresses, their relationship blossoms further in this way, until they eventually become the closest of friends. Had judgment and fear ruled over Keeley's life, as opposed to curiosity and inquisitiveness, this development would never have happened.
You helped this panda become a lion.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Another pair of unlikely friendships that happen in this way is with the characters Roy and Jamie, two of the show's main superstar football players and arch enemies to each other.
Right, that's it. Oi, I'm done with you being a prick to everyone.
So, either I beat up an old man, or I let an old man beat me up. Fuck it, let's go.
Roy is the wiser but much older veteran, while Jamie represents his direct counterpart in the naive and unintelligent but talented youth. From the first season, it's clear that these two despise each other, with constant back and forth bickering that is largely based off the two judging each other for who each of them thinks the other one is.
David, can I ask you something?
It's 40 kilos, do 3 sets of 10, and then I alternate between buys and tries.
I don't give a shit while you lift, you little pretty boy.
Yeah, you do, because you asked. Can you kill 40 kilos?
Oh, but I can use your balls as a speed bag. Do you want to try that?
But in Season 1, Episode 5, we can see this dynamic begin to shift as Ted helps Roy to see a different point of view towards Jamie, as someone that was actually not too dissimilar to who he was at that age. And this prompts Roy to go up to Jamie to ask questions and settle some of their tension.
When I was coming up, there was this old geezer at the club, Doug Stashwick. He was always on me, hated each other. Do you want to know how we won the league?
No.
It was the same shit Yankee Doodle was peddling. He sat me down, he said, let's get it all out there. You tell me why I'm a prick, and I'll tell you why you are.
While they may not become the best of friends like Rebecca and Keeley, Roy and Jamie's relationship grows tremendously from this point to a climatic situation in Season 2 where Roy comforts Jamie over his troubling relationship with his abusive father. Roy learns more about Jamie, and in turn, Jamie learns more about Roy. And this is only possible after they have stopped assuming and judging each other based off an image they have constructed in their minds, and instead ask questions that lead to understanding themselves even better.
If you know how to make me better, I want to hear it.
See?
Fine. I'll tell you what's wrong with you.
All right, now, here we go.
You fucked him up.
Whoa.
Okay, expound.
We need you to score more goals, and we need you to get in the other team's fucking heads and drive them up the fucking wall like only you can fucking do.
But this theme of curiosity doesn't just end there, and it continues to expand in smaller examples throughout the show. In that same episode of Roy coming up to Jamie for the first time, we're also introduced to an unlikely musical superstar who performs for the charity ball event that the team is attending.
This is Cam Cole. He's an undiscovered mega talent. Go on, Cam. Show me what you got.
Filling in as a replacement for Robbie Williams, Cam Cole is a busker spotted by Ted and is given a chance to show his music to the large crowd. Rebecca immediately begins to be suspicious of Cam based solely on his scruffy appearance and lack of name recognition, and this attitude extends to the entire crowd, who all look upon Cam's unpleasant outfit and nervous behavior as a sign of weakness and as someone who is an amateur musician without any real talent. But as Ted reassures Rebecca, this is not a book that you want to judge by its cover. The list of smaller examples can continue, from characters like the kit man for the team, Nate, and the team's poor treatment of him despite later realizing that he is a wonder kid in the tactics department, to the reverse, with players from the team like Isaac instantly judging amateur football players who teach him an important lesson of how to play the game.
I brought you here to remind you that football is a fucking game that you used to play as a fucking kid because it was fun. So fuck your feelings, fuck your overthinking, fuck all that bullshit, go back out there and have some fucking fun.
But the final example I want to bring up is where Ted actually fails to abide by his own rule with a character from Season 2 in Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, the team's sports psychologist. Even before Sharon arrives, Ted is fearful of her because of her profession and his past poor experiences with psychologists that did not help him greatly when it came to his failing marriage. This apprehensive attitude continues when Ted finally meets Sharon and begins to misjudge whether she is actually worthwhile and doubts that she could be helpful at all. His first sessions with her are filled with fear and angst, and Ted lashes out at her, wrongfully assuming all the bad things about Sharon's profession and who she is, and that, like the previous psychologist he had experience with, Sharon is simply out to get him and that she doesn't know what she's talking about.
You getting paid to just jot down your little notes and diagnose my tears, and then what? Probably just blame it on my folks, right? I mean, you say you're only interested in the truth, and yet here you are, charging an hourly rate for only 50 minutes of work. Like I said, it's bullshit.
Instead of heeding his own advice to be curious and asking questions that would have led him to better answers, Ted poorly mistreats Sharon and makes the mistake of judging her too harshly and incorrectly because his assumptions are all false and based on improper reasoning. He makes the same mistake others have made about him, but thankfully Ted soon realizes the error in his ways and apologizes to Sharon, confessing to her his fears and opens up to her so that she can begin to help him.
Let me ask you something. Would you coach for free?
Yeah, I would.
But do you?
No, ma'am.
And yet you care about your players, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then why would you assume it's not the same for me?
That's a good point. And look, I'm really sorry about that, getting all worked up and saying stuff like that, then storming out of here.
It happens.
Eventually, they too end up becoming incredibly close with each other and make huge breakthroughs as the series progresses, all of which again stems from Ted's shift towards curiosity rather than judgment. Time and time again, there are several examples scattered throughout the show that demonstrate this important message of being curious and not judgmental. And we have seen how characters that have chosen to heed this message have turned out for the better, and those who have chosen to neglect it have fared poorer in comparison. I want to add that, of course, the overall message isn't just to ignore our own judgment in favor of only being curious, because we all indeed use our judgments to guide our actions, and especially so towards how others act towards us. But it is more so an important reminder that our judgment should be informed by our curiosity and not the other way around. Like Ted, we need to be curious about others and even ideas or opinions, because by being curious, we can then start asking questions that will lead to better answers, and that will shape our judgment for the better.
Now, I'm going to say this again, just so you didn't think it was a mistake the first time I said it. For me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field. And it ain't always easy, Trent, but neither is growing up without someone believing in you.
If we ignore this step and instead choose to be willfully ignorant and arrogantly blind, our judgment is shaped by our own assumptions, and more often than not, these will be based in fiction rather than reality. Without curiosity, we would have a higher tendency to start pre-assuming things that we'd want to believe in rather than in what is actually true. We would bend reality around us to fit some idea already in our heads by assuming everything that there is to know without even questioning what it really is. In these ways, we would be making grave errors that affect not only us, but also those around us. Because if we base our lives on false assumptions, then we are more likely to hurt those that we judge, and we deprive ourselves from realizing the truth that hurts not only us, but everyone else in the process. So rather than fall quickly into false pretenses and incorrect observations, which is by far the easier path to take when it comes to making decisions, Ted Lasso teaches us to take a step back and begin the harder and longer process of asking questions and getting informed before we rationalize our choices. It teaches us not to be too quick to judge and to never judge a book by its cover, because if we do, we might never be surprised by something wonderful in the truth. So be curious and not judgmental.
Now, I'm gonna say this again, just so you didn't think it was a mistake the first time I said it. For me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field. And it ain't always easy, Trent, but neither is growing up without someone believing in you.